When altcoin season, what is altcoins doing, and when can we expect some altcoin action is the topic of today as we get into this one. Looking at total 3, total 2, and also Bitcoin dominance, and there are actually a few major signals starting to populate themselves, which are going to very likely fire off in the next 2 weeks as this month is coming to a close. So without further ado, let's jump right into this one. I suspect it's going to be a little bit on the shorter side. And first things first, I want to get on to this quarterly chart, a 3-month chart of Bitcoin dominance. Again, not the best metric to be measuring, general altcoin strength, but it gives us a little bit of a snapshot there. And as you can see, the quarterly RSI is about to put in some hidden bearish divergence, where the quarterly RSI is making higher highs compared to the highs that we did see way back on over here, which was in October of 2020, on the highs that we did see in past cycles, which was exactly this high right here. Now, when we see that quarterly RSI is making higher highs while price action is making significantly lower highs right around the 50% retracement levels you can see right here, it's likely going to be a pretty damn good place. Also getting, I wouldn't say rejected, but also getting stifled right at the yellow 21 exponential average. It's probably going to be a good place for a little bit of a stop and reverse, assuming that things do close here or lower by the end of this month, which is in 14 days and 15 hours. So basically 55, spot 35, 55 and a quarter, as long as it's around there, or especially if it's lower, then very, very good indication here that we have seen a high on Bitcoin dominance. Now, I want to say at the outset that, even if Bitcoin dominance put in a major high right here, I actually don't expect all altcoins to do phenomenal. I really do expect probably the more new and then certainly the strong altcoins to do very, very well, like massively outweighing the dregs of shitcoins, which are probably just going to get pulled more or less sideways, maybe slightly having new highs on their rallies. On top of that, we can see that for the monthly time frame, monthly stochastic momentum is also going to turn to the downside if Bitcoin dominance closes below about 55, spot 18. And if we go over here to the quarterly, I don't even actually think that we have a chart here, really. It's actually technically still to the upside, but we do expect that to lag a little bit. Anyways, so, probably the most obvious signal is if we do see the monthly close below basically that pivot. That'll not just turn monthly momentum to the downside on a lower high, but also quarterly will have the hidden bearish divergence. Plus, that would be considered a rejection right around here, the yellow 21 exponential. And then, of course, that would be a nice clean hit into the 50% level and a great pullback area as well. So I do suspect that at the end of this month, we will get clarity on that situation. And that is going to very likely give the green light to very strong altcoins to continue on with their overall rally versus Bitcoin. Now, one of the reasons why I do suspect that it's probably not going to be all altcoins, not all altcoins, hashtag not all altcoins, is because when we go over here to total 3, for example, representing the total market cap of all crypto coins, excluding Bitcoin, Ethereum, and dollar derivatives, we can see that things are more or less, consolidating and not necessarily super strong nor super weak fashion right here. Sideways is like the name of the game, and I suspect that this can go on for actually a while. Doing the old sideways dance for a while. Of course, in this case, it's pretty damn obvious as far as what the major pivots are. Basically below your April lows at about 500. Let's just call it 500 billion. Yeah, it's technically a little bit above there. I would be expecting overall upside. And if you do crack below there, probably a greater signal of a much more nasty reversal to come with all coins and probably Bitcoin as well, heading significantly to the downside. But as long as it kind of remains within these boundaries, very likely we do see this one trade to the upside overall. The earliest and easiest place to be getting bullish on this one would be if this one does trade back above its late May highs, which was about 7.25 billion. If you start to see closures back above there on higher term timeframes, very likely this one does continue on with its overall run and lifts up the tide of the stronger altcoins, probably retesting prior cycle highs and maybe making new highs this cycle as well. In fact, very likely does. Looking at the quarterly here, we can see, I almost said Bitcoin, but we can see that total 3 kind of sold off on that last major dump tilde that we saw from April of 2022. So, again, not uncommon to see pullbacks around these regions, kind of to be expected, but we really would be expecting that the current resolution from this current range would not drop below, again, the April lows. Again, that would be a good sort of area to mark off on your charts, just because if things do come back down below there, yeah, it's probably going to get more nasty. And I do suspect that things will maybe even test back down around there. Again, that's fine. Just don't want to see closures below there for the Boolaw's sake. We see over here a little bit of phantom divergence, as you can see, and also you might even call it a herp and derp with a neckline coming in from this area here. And then of course, can you make a measure move on this? I actually have seen this work out, weirdly enough. I don't want to believe that it works, but I have seen it work out enough to where it's, I'll put it on the chart. It would imply that the R side does come back down and probably test around the bearish control zone, but unlikely to really break below there. So, does that essentially look like something like this over time, comes back down, grinds its way out, and then tries to get to the upside later? Probably yes. But still, in the short term, have to be a little bit more on the defensive side. And I would be looking for strong altcoins to probably play towards the lower end of their range, whereas weak altcoins might just break down. I mean, it's very possible. I looked at a lot of them today for a live stream earlier, and a lot of them were already on life support, it seems like. So another reason why I do say, or at least my thoughts are that strong altcoins are going to really be lifting this one up, and it's the older, weaker altcoins that are, it's going to be the same shit as before. Not that interesting overall. Total 2, which is the total market cap, excluding just Bitcoin and dollar derivatives, a little bit stronger here, so does bode well for Ethereum overall. And we can see kind of the same thing, again, a little bit stronger, still in a higher low, yes, and same thing here as the last chart, basically. As long as Bitcoin, as long as total 2 is above about 920 billion with a B, I'm looking for this to kind of wedge itself into likely some sort of an ascending triangle, some sort of an uptrend, something like this, and in breakout, perhaps, around end of July, if you will, something like that. Of course, big problems below your April lows yet again, kind of the same thing as the prior chart. At that point, have to be looking for major, massive moves to the downside. But ultimately, I really do long-term expect for this one to continue on to the upside, and I do expect that it's not going to be most altcoins benefiting from it. I expect it's going to be mostly just the new ones, and then there are some strong ones actually from the prior cycle, which will likely benefit from that as well. Anyways, checking out over here from total 3, I do want to see what momentum looks like. We can see that monthly stochastic momentum is actually turning down as of right now. Turning down on that first tick around the critical zone is not a death sentence. It's actually typically a sign of strong momentum beginning. As you can see, the last time we saw this happen was way back on over here in November of 2020, before this, very amazing run to the upside. Spent, about a year in the critical zone, that is. So, spend some time up there. Just getting up there is not a bad sign in and of itself, is my point. And then, of course, we go to total 2. I expect we're going to see about the same thing. Yeah, pretty much the same chart, mirror charts right here. So it's really, again, one of those times to, if you are going to be involved with the altcoin side of the market, it's going to be a pickers market. It's going to be an altcoin pickers market. Not all of them are just going to blindly go up. It's in fact, probably most of them are not. But the ones that do win, they're very likely to win very big, very, very big. So, what's the best way to kind of handle that? Well, I would look at your altcoin versus Bitcoin pairing. So let's say that you like, I'll just pull up Ethereum versus Bitcoin here. Obviously, I know that people are liking much deeper shit coins than Ethereum. But looking at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, the best way is, 1, to be looking at it versus Bitcoin, and then 2, actually, if we go back on over to this chart, we can do the same thing. I want to be looking at altcoins that are having a bullish cross of their 21 and 55 exponential moving averages. In this case, Ethereum has not done this on the weekly just yet. We can see the last time it did cross the upside was over here, preceding this amazing run to the upside, as well as 2017, same shit over here. So, still got some work to do, but of course, I imagine that the daily is already switching around. In fact, it has. So one thing before the next, and I'd generally be scouting for altcoins that at least have the daily uptrend intact, and preferably the 5-day or the weekly if it does have more history. Of course, if it has shorter history, it's not going to show much at all. But for right now, Ethereum, Bitcoin, looking like it's that kind of a decision point, essentially, meaning that if you're bullish on this, again, versus Bitcoin, you really wouldn't be expecting too much lower than last week's low. You'd be expecting this one to consolidate here for maybe a few weeks and then try to the upside. and reclaim, most specifically, the February highs. If and when that does happen, Ethereum's probably in the clear. And you probably do see this one rocket up quite a fair bit. And I am of the opinion that this one is likely putting the lows already here. But hey, at the end of the day, do need to see the rest of the market follow through. And, you know, if Bitcoin were to take a leg down, I think it's less likely. But if it were to, well, it's hard to be bullish in really much, if anything. So do keep that in mind as well. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. A little bit on the shorter side, which is all good. Again, crypto school signups are still going strong for 11 days, 4 hours, 52 minutes, and 35 seconds. Really excited about this one. Again, it's kind of like a trial run for the first cohort. We'll see how it goes. You know, I'm not really like a part of the crypto banter team. So, you know, if it goes well, then perhaps we do some more. If it doesn't, then we don't. And it's free. So there's no kind of, I guess, terrible drawback from that. Of course, it does require your own exchange account, but that's your own exchange account with your own money. It has nothing to do with me. The way that their business model actually goes off of sponsorship. So just so you know, it's easier. It's easier, actually. All right, sweet. That is going to do it for me today. Just another message or another follow-up on this long-term view of kind of the general altcoin market that kind of at a top area, top area for Bitcoin dominance. And so, you know, if you are scouting for strong altcoins, I think you're going to get your chance here in the next like half year after June ends. So we'll end things right there. As always, wishing you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.